Most gardens are surprisingly inefficient. Walk into almost any backyard garden, and you'll see the same pattern. Long rows, large empty spaces between plants. Tomatoes here, carrots there, lettuce in another section. It looks organized, but in reality, it wastes a huge amount of space. Traditional gardening methods were designed for large farms with machines, not small home gardens. When tractors move through fields, crops must be planted in rows. But in a backyard garden, you don't need tractors. And that changes everything. Because once you remove machines from the equation, a completely different way of growing food becomes possible. A system that uses layers, density, and plant cooperation to produce dramatically more food. Some gardeners, using this method, harvest 5 to 10 times more food from the same space. And the surprising part is, this idea isn't new. In fact, versions of this system have existed for centuries. Ancient farming communities often grew crops in dense polycultures where every inch of soil produced something. Instead of rows, they created living ecosystems. Plants supported each other. Roots used different soil depths. Leaves captured sunlight at different heights. And the result was simple. More food, less wasted space. But somewhere along the way, modern gardening forgot this idea. And today, most gardens are still designed like miniature farms, which means most of the space isn't actually producing food. So, the question becomes, what happens if we redesign a garden completely? Not for machines, not for straight rows, but for maximum production per square foot. When gardeners started experimenting with this question, they discovered something surprising. A small backyard garden could become incredibly productive, not by working harder, but by using a different system. The first key to growing 10 times more food is understanding something nature does naturally. Forests don't grow in rows. They grow in layers. If you walk through a natural forest, you'll notice plants exist at many different heights. Tall trees form the upper canopy. Below them are smaller trees, then shrubs, then herbs, then ground cover plants, and underground. Roots spread through different depths of soil. Every layer captures sunlight. Every layer uses nutrients. Every layer produces life. Nature wastes almost no space. This idea is called vertical stacking. Instead of growing plants side by side, you grow them above and below each other. For example, tall crops like corn capture high sunlight. Below them, leafy vegetables grow in partial shade. Closer to the soil, ground plants cover exposed dirt, and beneath the surface, root crops expand underground. Suddenly, one garden bed is producing food in multiple layers at the same time. 1 square meter becomes 3 or 4 productive spaces. And when gardeners began intentionally designing gardens this way, yields increased dramatically. Tomatoes could climb upward on trellises. Cucumbers could grow vertically. Beans could spiral up poles. Leafy greens could grow underneath. The same space that once held only a few plants now held dozens. But vertical growing alone isn't the full system. To reach the highest productivity, another principle must be used. And it comes from observing something simple. Plants don't just compete, they can also cooperate. In traditional gardens, crops are often isolated. One bed grows tomatoes, another grows onions, another grows lettuce. But plants evolved in ecosystems, not isolation. Many species actually benefit from growing together. This concept is called companion planting. Certain plants protect each other from pests. Some improve soil nutrients. Others attract pollinators. And some simply grow well side by side without competing for the same resources. A classic example comes from an ancient Native American farming system known as the Three Sisters. This system grows corn, beans, and squash together. Each plant serves a purpose. Corn grows tall and acts as a natural trellis. Beans climb the cornstalk and add nitrogen to the soil. Squash spreads across the ground, shading the soil and reducing weeds. 3 crops grow in the space normally used for one, and each one helps the others grow better. This principle works across many crops. Carrots grow well with onions. Tomatoes benefit from basil. Lettuce thrives beneath taller plants that provide shade. By carefully combining crops, gardeners can fill empty spaces and increase productivity. Instead of plants competing for resources, they begin forming a small ecosystem. But there's another overlooked factor that dramatically increases yields. And it has nothing to do with plant combinations. It has to do with how soil itself is used. Most garden beds leave large areas of soil exposed. Rows require walking paths. Plants must be spaced widely for machines. But when growing by hand, gardens can become much denser. One famous approach that uses this idea is called intensive gardening. Instead of rows, crops are planted in grid patterns. Plants are spaced just close enough to form a living canopy. As they grow, their leaves eventually touch. This creates several advantages. First, sunlight is captured more efficiently. Instead of hitting bare soil, sunlight is converted into plant growth. Second, soil moisture stays longer. Plant leaves shade the ground and reduce evaporation. Third, weeds struggle to grow. Dense crops block sunlight from reaching weed seeds. And finally, roots build healthier soil. As plants grow close together, their root systems create a network underground. This improves soil structure and microbial life. In these gardens, a single raised bed can produce enormous harvests. Leafy greens grow tightly packed. Carrots fill entire beds. Herbs spread through unused gaps. A small backyard can suddenly produce baskets of vegetables every week. But there is one final piece of the system, and without it, even high-density gardens eventually slow down. Because plants can only grow as well as the soil feeding them, which means the most productive gardens focus heavily on one thing: building living soil. The secret behind the most productive gardens isn't fertilizer, it's soil biology. Healthy soil is full of life. Billions of microorganisms work together beneath the surface. Bacteria break down organic matter. Fungi transport nutrients between plants. Earthworms aerate the soil and recycle nutrients. This underground ecosystem feeds plants naturally. But many modern gardens accidentally destroy this life. Heavy digging, chemical fertilizers, and leaving soil exposed. All of these practices reduce soil health. High-yield gardens take a different approach. They feed the soil first. Compost becomes the foundation of fertility. Mulch protects the ground from sun and erosion. Organic material slowly decomposes and feeds microbes. Over time, soil becomes richer and more productive every season. Plants grow faster, harvests increase, and the system begins sustaining itself. When layered, growing, companion planting, dense beds, and living soil all work together, something remarkable happens. A small garden becomes incredibly productive. Some gardeners harvest hundreds of pounds of food from spaces smaller than a parking spot, not through expensive technology, not through chemicals, but through better design. And that's the real lesson hidden in high-yield gardens. It's not about working harder. It's about understanding how ecosystems produce abundance. Because when a garden begins functioning like nature, every inch of space becomes an opportunity for food. And suddenly, the same garden that once produced a few vegetables can produce enough harvest to feed a family, all from the exact same space.